Hi, welcome back to PD7. You've nearly made it. Can you believe it? Graduation is literally around the corner. Congratulations. Hopefully, PA school went by faster than you expected. This lecture today is designed to bring everything you have learned in your professional development series together for a culminating reflection. Because we aren't actually together in class for a discussion, please be prepared to write down and record your own reflections. You will turn in your responses for credit. So, what is a professional to you? In your first semester, you created a personal mission statement. You were definitely pretty green back then, and maybe even a little naive too. You have grown and developed so much, I'm sure. So, does your personal mission statement still fit? Now that you are so much wiser, do you have anything you would change? Take a moment to write down your thoughts. Let's talk about who you are as a professional. I bet you saw some behaviors during your clinical rotations that you didn't think were so professional. You probably even saw things that made you say to yourself, yeah, I'm never doing that. Take a moment to reflect upon 5 unprofessional behaviors you want to be sure to avoid in your own career. How can you avoid or improve upon those behaviors? Take a moment to record your response. On the contrast side, hopefully you also saw many more good things during your clinical year than bad. Take a moment to write down 5 behaviors you specifically want to emulate, or maybe ideas you have about how to be a professional. What can you actually do to accomplish this task? It's often easy to be nice to nice people, patient with gracious people. It's much easier to control your temper when you've had enough rest and when you've had a good meal recently. But how do you react when you aren't at your best? Maybe when someone is yelling at you, or you've received some difficult feedback that you don't want to hear. Maybe you've been working a 12-hour shift and you couldn't sleep the night or day before. Reflect upon when you are at your worst. Take a moment to write down your observations. What strategies specifically can help you adapt when you aren't at your best? You just concluded your last emotional intelligence inventory. Write down your observations about your growth over time. Take note of your progress. What are things that you still need to develop? Choose one area that you would like to continue to develop over the next 6 months. What strategies will you employ to do so? Consider using the SMART goal format to guide your progress. As a professional in the PA profession, you'll be making commitments to several different populations of people. Your first is, of course, your patients. What are your professional commitments you would like to offer to your patients? How will you treat them? How early will you respond, or how quickly will you respond to them? How will you treat their concerns and questions? How responsive will you be? What will that look like? You'll also have a team that you're working with, the physician that you're working with, the nurses, medical assistants, other nurse practitioners and PAs, etc. What will your professionalism look like to them? What kinds of commitments would you like to make to your team regarding your professional behavior? Obviously, you have a commitment to yourself as well. Are you taking care of yourself? Are you eating right? Are you exercising? Are you evaluating your strengths and weaknesses? Are you able to see the good and the bad and to cut yourself a little bit of slack when you need to? Now let's reflect back on the past year. How anxious were you about your clinical rotations? Did you ever wonder where you'd be going? Worry about how receptive or open your preceptor would be? Did you wonder if you would actually see or do enough? And maybe even you had the thought of, am I even prepared to actually do this? Now let's think about the challenge of scheduling clinical rotations. That's what I do every day. How many people do you think the clinical education team has to contact in order to get even just one person to agree to host a student? How much is the competition for clinical rotations growing? Let's think about it just here in Utah. Since Rocky Mountain University's PA program has started, there's a new DO school in St. George. The University of Utah PA program has doubled their class size. And UVU and Weber are also starting programs. And soon our own university will be affiliated with a new, large osteopathic medical school. What do you imagine the impact of these new programs to be on the ability of a school or a program like Rocky Mountain University to schedule clinical rotations? Do you anticipate it getting easier or harder to find new clinical rotation sites? So let's talk about it. What percentage of providers actually serve as a clinical preceptor? I've heard an estimate of between 10 and 25% of all medical providers actually serve as a preceptor. So let's think about the impact of that. 100% of all hands-on medical education is currently being offered by only 10 to 25% of the entire medical community. Is that sustainable? What will happen to the PA profession if more providers do not start to serve as clinical preceptors, especially as there are more and more PA schools opening? I want to be bold and say it is a professional obligation for every physician assistant to serve as a clinical preceptor. Is it really someone else's responsibility? If every medical provider has to go through this mentoring apprenticeship process, why shouldn't every practicing provider serve as a clinical preceptor too? It's my personal challenge to you. Once you feel competent and capable, commit to serving as a clinical preceptor at least once per year. I don't even care if it's for Rocky Mountain. Well, of course I prefer that it's Rocky Mountain. But just do it for someone. Do it to serve your community as a physician assistant. Let's look at the impact on scheduling rotations. As Rocky Mountain University's PA program grows, as well as its seasoned alumni base, scheduling rotations should get easier. Right now, there should be about 150 potential preceptors who are alumni from our program. Next year, 200. Right now, we only have about 3 to 5 alumni per cohort who are actually serving as preceptors for us. What would be the impact on PA education if this was true for all PA schools? Let's do the math. If every alumni hosted one student per year, how many rotations would that be? What if they did 2, 3, 4 rotations per year? I want you to think about how many times you will be willing to serve as a preceptor each year. As a profession, let's stop depending on physicians to carry a lot of this weight. As a PA, be an advocate, a leader for your own profession. Physician assistants are the experts on physician assistants. Thus, PAs should help PAs. So what are other ways you can contribute to the profession? Do you like it when other people make decisions for you? Isn't it even worse when those people don't know anything about what you actually do? So get involved. Consider participating in decision making. Advocate for the changes you want. The PA profession is ever changing. Do you really want physicians, nurse practitioners, politicians, insurance companies, or others who simply have a more prominent role or more money to lobby to actually decide how you practice when they don't really understand your role? How about your comfort level with other PAs making decisions for you? For example, what's your opinion on the profession's name potentially changing to physician associate? Or would you want the profession to shift to a doctoral degree? Consider helping the profession and the image of the profession grow and improve by teaching other people about the profession, allowing students to shadow. What are other ways that you could contribute to the profession? Write down your ideas. So moving forward, now that you're transitioning from student to physician assistant as a professional, how will you interact with others? How will you move forward? Write down what you wish your preceptors had taught you and how you can pass that along to other future physician assistants. Write down and reflect upon how you wish you would have been treated by your own preceptors. And how can you improve upon that when you are a professional interacting with others in training? And reflect and record how you can specifically make a difference to your own patients, to your coworkers, to your community, and to the physician assistant community and profession. You represent more than just yourself. You represent your supervising physician, your clinic, your specialty, your profession. You represent your school, Rocky Mountain University of Health Professions. You represent your family or your family name. Your actions have an impact, and you have the opportunity to use yourself as an ambassador for each of these groups. Go out and serve. Do a great job. Remember who you are as a professional, and know that we are behind you, supporting you, and excited to see you move forward.